Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Quéren Abreu. I'm a well-being researcher and speaker, and today we are going to explore yoga, the paths and ways to refine love. I'll be comparing the 4 yoga paths with a huge emphasis on Bhakti Yoga. Since we don't have a lot of time, I chose to emphasize Bhakti Yoga today. And also I'll start our conversation explaining a little bit about what is yoga. And I hope this will provide us a better understanding on how to practice Bhakti Yoga on a daily basis, and also as well as to comprehend what yoga is about. So after the presentation, I'll do a little bit of a recap so we can remember everything we've spoken. And I'll also open for some questions at the end. So if you have any sort of questions, you just take notes and then you can send me by message in the end of the presentation, okay? All right, that being said, thank you so much for being here with me today. And I hope you enjoy a little yogic path journey. So we will start talking about what is yoga. I don't know if you think about it on a daily basis, but personally, I think it's very important that we understand what is yoga, especially here on this conversation. And it's important to emphasize that yoga, it's not a religion. Okay, I like this definition of yoga that says that yoga is a psychophysical energetic technology that expands our consciousness. Wow, this sounds so complicated, but it is not, okay? Psychophysical because we're dealing with the mind and the body. Energetic because we're dealing with subtle substances like our souls. So yoga, it's about really linking mind, body, and soul, uniting or allowing us to remember unity, that all these things are linked together. In many instances of yoga, you work with the mind. In many instances of yoga, you work with the mind and the body, and we are always working with the soul. So yeah, just wanted to present you this very nice yoga meaning that I think that summarizes pretty much what yoga is about. And everything is for the expansion of the consciousness. Everything is to allow us to remember that we are unity. This is what yoga is about. And yeah, on the yoga practice, we are always like seeing how these things are interconnected, right? So when you have a flexible mind, leads you to have a flexible body. When you have a flexible body, it leads you to have a more flexible mind. So we are always observing these interactions, which is pretty interesting. With that being said, I would like to also say that all these concepts we're talking about comes from this yogic literature, this scriptures, books, ancient knowledge that comes from Vedas, Patanjali Sutras, and the Upanishads. You know, this Vedic tradition, it's where yoga comes from. Yoga comes from the Vedas. The Vedas, it's the knowledge of the self. And just for you guys to know that all these things are backed by this very ancient scriptures, oral and written traditions of Vedic traditions, the Upanishads, and also the Patanjali Sutras. Very nice information and very scientific too. With that being said, now that we have explored what yoga is about and kind of where do all this knowledge comes from, very briefly, very quickly, because we have little time today, I would like to move on to the 4 paths of yoga, which are the first classifications of yoga according to the Upanishads, one of these ancient books that I just mentioned. Okay, so we have the 4 paths here: Gnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Karma Yoga. What are they about? We're about to find out. So Gnana Yoga is the yoga of knowledge, okay? It's very analytical, theoretical, It's the oldest form of the oldest path. It comes from the Vedas that I just mentioned too, this very ancient tradition that really allows us to diving into these existential questions of humanity. So basically, where do we come from? Where do we go after we die? What's the life's purpose? This is what the Vedas talk about, right? And Gnana Yoga, the Vedas are also the source of modern yoga. Very important to emphasize that. So Gnana Yoga is about talking about the whys. Why are we here? Why do we live? Why do we die? All these existential questions are contemplated in Gnana Yoga. Moving on from Gnana Yoga, we have the next path, the second path of yoga, according to the Upanishads. That's Raja Yoga, the yoga of technique. It's the yoga of structure and logic. So basically, all that yoga that we see on the studios, you know, when you go to a yoga studio, you see people practicing the poses, the asanas, the mudras, the bandhas, the pranayama, the meditation techniques. All of this is part of Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga is also considered Patanjali's yoga. When Patanjali talks about his 8 limbs on his sutras, he's talking about techniques, ways, and steps so we can reach samadhi. Samadhi, it's the utmost goal of the yoga practice, is to reach the state of bliss, the state of pure oneness, where we don't see differences anymore. We see that we are one, we are unity. So the goal of Patanjali's yoga, the goal of the 8 limbs, the goal of Raja Yoga is to reach samadhi doing these 8 steps, okay? So I won't go so deeply into these steps right now because today's presentation is more about emphasizing Bhakti Yoga, but this is a very interesting topic for us to explore on the next presentation, another time, another topic. Okay, so let's move on. With that being said, Raja Yoga, it's the yoga of structure and logic. It's how do we reach samadhi? How do we reach the state of pure bliss on an individual level? So we have all these yamas, niyamas, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, until we reach samadhi, oneness, state of pure bliss. But all these practices are still very individual. So we're talking about how do we concentrate ourselves, or how do we activate certain energy blocks or seals by doing hand gestures or bodily positions. It's very individual practice here. And the next path of yoga, which is Bhakti Yoga, talk about how do you reach samadhi, this state of bliss, on a more collective level. So it's a kind of a little bit of contrast. Initially, you might think that it's a little bit of contrast from Raja Yoga to Bhakti Yoga, but they are all interconnected too. Bhakti Yoga is the yoga of devotion, where we welcome the emotions into our practice. Raja Yoga and Gnana Yoga are very theoretical or technical. And here, Bhakti Yoga, we are talking about our emotions being part of our practice. It's also a more social practice of yoga, and we can practice Bhakti Yoga by singing mantras, dancing, doing gatherings and festivals for praise and celebration, doing everything together, bringing the sense of unity with other human beings or living beings too. You can practice Bhakti Yoga with humans and also with animals. Why not, right? They're also living beings. So It's an art to practice. And why is it an art to practice? Because we're putting emotions in the game. And every time we're talking about emotions, we are talking about polarities. We humans, with our minds, we try to organize everything into polarities. And here, in the polarities of the emotions, for example, we have the more dense polarities. They're on the bottom, and the more subtle we go to the other polarity, like this vertical polarity, the more up we are, the higher we go, the more subtle this energy becomes. Emotions are energies, okay? And every energy, every emotion is going to have a more dense polarity and a more higher up polarity. I like this illustration here with the pyramids and the people trying to climb the top of the pyramid, because it really shows us this dynamics of polarization, density, and being more subtle. We all know that the pyramids have 4 sides, right? And the base of the pyramid, it's larger. And the top of the pyramid, it's pointy. It's the top there. So when we are climbing this pyramid and we start from the base, we are kind of in the bottom of the pyramid. We are farther away from each other, right? So here, when we go to the top, we start getting closer to each other. This is the journey. We take an emotion, for example, love, and we purify this love until we get to the top of the pyramid, the highest qualification of this energy. And by being subtle, we are closer together. So devotion, it's, for example, the refinement of love. The process of refining these energies, these emotions, they are on our daily basis, so we can become subtle and more united. Okay, so the highest to the top of the pyramid, the closest we are to unity. So talking about these polarities, we have on the bottom of the pyramid, we have fear, attachment. In the middle of the pyramid, we have a space where we can coexist, but not necessarily be so together. And on the top of the pyramid, we have unconditional love. This is when we are totally united and close to each other, really working for a peaceful, respectful coexistence is also one of the main goals of Bhakti Yoga. So here we have some emotional frequencies. The more subtle we are, the more expanded we are, and the more dense we are, the more contracted we are. So yoga helps us in this process of subtilization, becoming subtle, and expansion. The more we go up on the spiral, going to the top of the pyramid, the more expanded we are, the more united we are. So here we have some examples of emotions and frequencies. We have that on the bottom, we have shame. We also have fear, very low. And the more top we get to love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. And remember that enlightenment, it's bliss, it's the ultimate goal of yoga. So every help is welcome since we are going upwards, right? Going upwards, it's much more challenging than going down because, like we say in Portuguese, para descer todo santo ajuda. This can be more or less translated as everything collaborates for going down, right? Because gravity pulls you down. So this help of yoga to help us to climb up this pyramid, it's very welcome. I find it refreshing. So how to act from a place of love? We have to cultivate this habit, this practice in Bhakti Yoga of seeing the same divine energy in all human beings. We have to fall in love with the essence of life, see potential, the divine potential in everyone. This is a technique called heart switching that I learned with Manjit Mathur, one of my gurus, my teachers in the Yulu yoga teacher training. And he really explains about this technique, like when you're interacting with someone and this person shows to be very challenging, try to make a little heart shift. Try to see the divine essence, the divine potential on the person. Try to understand that the speech and maybe the actions of the person never shows us who that person completely are. The person, it's more than what it shows. And also, another thing that I like to do and to think about is that every interaction I have with someone is just mirroring who I am. So if I see something in someone that really bothers me, it's because I have that inside myself. So when I go through this mindset, instead of judging, I try to understand, I create understanding. I'm closer to the top of the pyramid. I'm closer to unity, and I allow myself space to expand in love, in unconditional love. And every time we are in judgment, we're going to the bottom of the pyramid, because judgment creates separation. So yeah, this is a very nice practice for us to do. Heart shifting. So every time someone kind of shows to be challenging, okay, this is not who this person completely are. This person has also a divine nature, a divine essence. I change this, I shift this. And the other thing that I like to do, it's also to understand that everything is mirroring who I am. So it makes me have more empathy. It makes me be on a more understanding place than on a judgmental place. So this is what Bhakti Yoga is about. It's about refining love, about refining our emotions, bringing them from this dense human realm to a more spiritual realm, a more subtle realm, right on the top of the pyramid, so we can be all united together. The Bhakti Yoga is about how I get to reach Samadhi, the state of pure bliss, but on a more collective level. That being said, we move on to the fourth path of yoga. Since I'm already running out of time here, I'll just say very quickly, it's karma yoga. It's the yoga of action. So how do we take all of the things that we've been learning with Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, and even Bhakti Yoga, and we put into selfless action? We act with compassion. Our intention here is to benefit all sentient beings. It's also considered the highest path of yoga. You know, karma yoga, it's living the yoga. It's putting everything that we learned into action. So we're not looking for recognition. We are just making, the intention here is the key factor. It's really important. We are not looking for recognition. We are contributing for a higher cause. Whatever the cause you choose, it can be helping people, can be helping animals, it can be even helping yourself. You're going to do this for the highest cause, that it's uniting all human beings. This is why this karma yoga is considered the highest of all paths. So karma yoga is the yoga of action. Doing a little recap of how all these aspects we've talked today. We talked about what is yoga. Yoga is about unity. The four paths of yoga, we have Jnana Yoga, why? Raja Yoga, how on an individual level, Bhakti Yoga, how on a social, on a collective level, and we also have Karma Yoga that's putting all of this into action. I hope I was able to show you what yoga is about. I hope I was able to show you how to practice Bhakti Yoga on your daily basis, on your daily routine. Also explain to you a little bit more superficially about the other paths of yoga. But the main focus of this presentation was basically to present these paths and dive into more about how to implement Bhakti Yoga and what is Bhakti Yoga about. So I hope this was understood and it was clear. Thank you so much for being here and watching me today. And if you have any questions, you just write me and then I can answer you guys later. Now, a little bit of homework. I would like you to take this presentation, and as a homework, you can try to sit for 5 minutes and really clear your mind to think about which one of these 4 paths you really perceive more active in your daily routine, in your daily life. And once you've done that, try to think about which one of these paths you would like to develop more, to cultivate. This is a little bit of a homework, just in case you want to practice some self-knowledge and self-study, and maybe establish a little goal for you developing one of these 4 paths of yoga on your daily routine. I personally think that since I explained more about Bhakti Yoga, you should think about the Bhakti ways of yoga on your daily routine. But it's up to you, it's completely up to you. Thank you so much for watching this presentation, and namaste.